Out front this evening, the breaking news, possible new legal trouble for President Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. His former son-in-law is flipped. He is now cooperating with the feds as part of Jeffrey Yohai's plea agreement. That's the name of the son-in-law. He is now cooperating with New York's Attorney General's office as well, which is working with Bob Mueller's investigation, which, as you may know, turned 1 year old today. Yohai first met with investigators back in 2017, and according to sources, he provided information to federal investigators for the Manafort probe in possible money laundering, tax evasions, violations. All that was underway. He started to provide information, which was turned over to Bob Mueller. Manafort has been charged with a whole lot of things, including money laundering, failure to disclose himself as a foreign agent, bank fraud, and tax fraud. He continues, though, to maintain his innocence. I want to go straight to Kara Scannell out front live in Washington, breaking this story. Kara, what are you learning about this plea deal with Manafort's former son-in-law?
Well, Aaron, that's right. So Manafort's former son-in-law, Jeffrey Yohai, has reached a plea agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. Now, the prosecutors there have been investigating Yohai for over a year relating to real estate dealings that he has had in that area. Yohai has been sued in many civil lawsuits alleging he defrauded his investors, including actor Dustin Hoffman. So as part of this plea agreement, Yohai will have to cooperate with any authority. So that could be the New York Attorney General's office, which is investigating Manafort, as well as special counsel Robert Mueller's team. Now, one person familiar with the agreement says that it really has to do with Yohai's own real estate development deals and is not obviously related to Manafort. So it's not clear how much information he will be giving or be able to provide Mueller, but he certainly will have to answer any questions that any investigators in the state or federal have for him.
And Kara, as you report, right, you're talking about Los Angeles, but as part of this, also cooperating with the New York Attorney General office, which is working with Bob Mueller's investigation. So I guess, as you point out, the crucial question is, what does this mean for Bob Mueller? It's the second person close to Manafort who's cooperating with federal investigators of some type or another. Rick Gates, the other, Manafort's longtime deputy.
That's right, Aaron. And Manafort has two trials coming up, one scheduled in July and one in September, on those indictments that special counsel Mueller's team brought against him, alleging allegations of, tax fraud and bank fraud. And so the question will be, what does Yohai have, if anything, to offer the investigators in that case? He could be called as a witness if he has something relevant to those investigations. And that's something that we'll see how that plays out in the next couple of months.
All right, Kara, thank you very much breaking this story. And I want to go now to former Nixon White House counsel John Dean, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Network's April Ryan, and the former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Harry Sandick. So, Harry, let me start with you. Paul Manafort obviously is a very important player here. He was the chairman of the president's campaign. He was in that meeting in Trump Tower. You now have his deputy, Rick Gates, and now his former son-in-law, essentially flipping. Yep. So what is the significance of his son-in-law flipping when we're talking about L.A. and New York, but cooperating with Mueller? Put all that in English. What does it mean for Mueller?
I think what it means is that as we get closer to the trial date, in order to try to convince Manafort to cooperate with the investigation, they wanted to appear to Manafort like the walls are closing in. So your former business partner, Gates, is going to be testifying against you. We knew that a couple of months ago. Now your own former son-in-law, who knows what things he was privy to? When I say who knows, the answer is Mueller and these other investigators know. Right. And it may well be that the allegations in Yohai's case have nothing to do with what he's going to be talking about Mueller. But once you're a cooperator in the federal government, you're a cooperator for all purposes. You don't just limit it to what you've been charged with.
Right. So they, as Kara said, anything they ask, and they are cooperating with Mueller. So anything Mueller wants, I mean, this is now essentially open door policy. Basically.
Exactly. So he's sitting there, Manafort, imagining, what did I tell him? What was he privy to? What calls was he present for? What emails did I forward to him? What did we talk about around the house at family gatherings? All of this could be used.
And John Dean, I mean, what is the significance here? Manafort has said he's not guilty, right? He's fought everything. Obviously, he lost an important case moving forward in D.C. this week, but he said he's not guilty of tax evasion, not guilty of bank fraud. Is the goal here to get Manafort to flip? And I guess the question has always been on whom? Is that then the president?
I think that is the ultimate goal, that the special counsel would rather have Manafort talking rather than in prison or in the courtroom fighting cases. This case, this plea, according to current reports, was the indictment was handed down in January. There's been local press about his son-in-law out here. They were tearing down properties and investing money and taking a $3 million property and making it into a purportedly a $30 million property. But there were a lot of unhappy investors. He was accused of Ponzi schemes.
Yes.
So there's also reports that Manafort was investing in this. So there may be part of the case in Virginia against Manafort is based on this son-in-law's testimony.
So how much pressure, April, does this put on Manafort if the ultimate goal is to get him to talk, open his mouth and flip?
It's a lot of pressure because someone who was at least once in your family, you know, when you sit around the kitchen table or at dinner somewhere or just in conversation, some things slip out. And the question is, can that be used against him? And any time you get a family member or even a former friend, you don't know what the relationship is right now. So it does put pressure on him. And it also not only puts pressure on Manafort, even as the president says this is a witch hunt on this year anniversary, if you will, it puts pressure on this White House. Even though, you know, Mueller has allegedly told Rudy Giuliani that he will not be indicted, it still does not bode well that the president's former campaign manager, his son-in-law, is now going to flip on him to possibly get to the president or maybe the children or somewhere in that realm. It's a lot of pressure on all involved.